The box was super
Dude, I was
light.
gonna say the same thing. It felt like there was nothing in the box.
I didn't feel like it was nothing, but it felt like this is significantly lighter than I was used to. Like, yeah, it's significantly lighter.
Very light.
So that was a standout feature for sure.
Yeah. And also, I feel like the packaging just gets more and more bare bones as the years go on. It's crazy.
It is. Like, there's no stickers, which is a good thing, I guess. But, because, like, I don't think there's been one example of me ever using those stickers. I've never taken the sticker and placed it somewhere.
I have them all. I have a lot of them in a little envelope that I keep them in. I don't know why, but they're just like
just
in my
in
drawer
case.
in an envelope, just to reminisce. I've thought about like dating them or like writing down on the back like which product it came from, but it's too late now. But yeah, I don't think I've actually ever used those stickers. But it was so like iconic. I'm kind of annoyed that they removed it.
I always like highlighting them in my videos. Like, I always like making jokes like, "This is what you came to look for." Or something,
like different
something
hues
stupid
of
like
silver and space and space gray and things like that. But
yeah.
No, the iPad Pro box was definitely. It was very light. It felt like it was almost nothing in there. And then I guess the other highlight, obviously aside from the iPad Pro, was the black braided cable. I thought that was a nice little touch. Nice little touch. Although, I think the tip of it was still white, right? Kind of weird.
Huh?
Or was the brick was white. The brick was white.
The brick is white. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is weird. It's like, why not just go all the way out? But
yeah, give us the space black.
Nothing blew my mind about this device, but it's more of a refinement, right?
Yeah.
Like it's more of a refinement over previous years. The Apple Pencil is probably one of my favorite.
The coolest part, I think.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
So I definitely plan on using that more. Keyboard's nice. I got a lot of observations about that. So yeah, I want to just start with just talking about like what's your favorite feature for the iPad Pro?
The feature, I guess,
or just anything.
Like the software standpoint feature, nothing's really changed, obviously, because it's still 17.5 on the iPad Pro. I mean, I think the thinness is cool. I mean, some people are saying it's not a big deal just because it's like lighter and thinner, but I do think it reduces the package in terms of weight all in enough where it's like a nice tangible difference. Because my M1 iPad Pro with the Magic Keyboard and the Apple Pencil was a hefty package, whereas the MacBook Air was like 2.7 pounds. But now the new version does reduce it back down to that 2.7 pounds. So it just feels like a different product overall. It
feels a lot trimmer and thinner and more portable.
Like you said, it's refined. Like Apple knew what they were doing. It's like reached, I think it's full maturity. Like I don't see it. Could it go thinner? I guess maybe. I don't know. But this thing is thin,
It's really thin. Well, I was in the store and I saw the 11-inch Pro, and that coupled with the new thinness made that device pretty. It's pretty compelling. Like you talk about, because one of my favorite Apple products, as far as Macs are concerned, was that 11-inch MacBook Air. Remember that?
Oh yeah,
with the huge bezel.
Yeah, the big bezel, still the wedge design. I think I still have one in my closet over here.
Really?
Yeah.
I love that thing. I don't know. I'm kind of tempted to go with that 11-inch, even though I know it's stupid. Because especially if I'm trying to replace my MacBook with
this thing,
the iPad. Oh wow!
This is the 11.
He brought it out.
Look at that.
Oh yeah, look at those bezels. Look at those bezels, man.
This is my wife's actually from like college, as you can see all the pictures, all the stickers.
Yeah, that's yours, man. Don't front.
Just blaming her for it. But no, that thing was portable. So I mean, I could see the 11-inch being, like you said, just the ultimate, because they went back, because before there was a little bit of differences in terms of not just size and battery, but there was a mini LED versus the IPS panel, and things like that. But now it's just, everything is inside, everything internally is the same between the 11 and the 13. Now at this point, you're just picking size. So from a power standpoint, that thing it's got some horsepower for the size.
Yeah, just think about a 2 terabyte cellular version of that. Like, man, that's a computer.
Absolutely.
For real. Like that's a portable beast. Like that's got me thinking, man. I'm like, do I really want to do that? But
well, my whole thing with the smaller one is just the keyboard. The keyboard for me, I remember I played with the idea of going with the 11-inch, but if I wanted to sit down and get real work done on a desk, that keyboard is just a little too small for me.
It
It feels crammed.
To me, the biggest downside is the fact that you can't, like, the multitasking. So I don't know if it's a little bit different now with Stage Manager being here, because I haven't tried Stage Manager on 11. But back when I used to have an 11, it was like if you had two up windows, like two side split view windows, they would both be in sort of the iPhone view, or the lesser view where you didn't get the full
like
view.
you didn't get the iPad app, you got like the iPhone app basically on the iPad.
Kind of.
Sort of. Yeah.
It was just like the smaller, so you can't really, it's just a worse multitasking experience, obviously, because of the not having as much screen real estate. But the portability, I don't know. That's
nice.
kind of.
I would argue that that's the iPad Mini Pro that everybody wanted. You know what I mean? Because it's still, the form factor is still so thin and light. It's, yes, obviously the footprint's a little bit bigger than the iPad Mini, but for some people, it's still a one-handed, like you can grab that thing with one hand, which is crazy. And it's still extremely powerful, and I'm sure people that want to draw on it, or I know like Stephen Robles, he edits his podcast fully on the iPad Mini and the iPad Pro with Apple Pencil. So I can see that being like a portable workhorse machine, man. It's crazy. Audio only. He does audio only.
Okay, I'm going to say, dude is a beast. He's a beast. If he could do a video podcast edit on a Mini,
he's a savage.
Respect to him, man. Respect.
But yeah, other things about the iPad Pro first, because we've only had it for a couple days. I did edit one video on it so far, and I could tell going from the M1 to the M4, it exports faster. It's not like blowing my mind, like you said. Nothing is really mind blowing if you're coming from an M1 or M2 iPad Pro, but everything is just that much faster, that much more convenient, that much more efficient, which is expected out of something that's newer, they've been working on for 2 years. So it's familiar, but everything improved. Every aspect that you wanted improved did improve overall. And then also the battery life. I don't know, again, if that's just because it's a new iPad and it's a brand new battery versus my 3-year-old iPad. But so far, 3 days later, the iPad battery life is holding strong.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's part of the reason. My iPad Pro, I just sold it, by the way.
Yeah, you got some nice money for it too. I should have maybe played around with that, because Apple only gave me like half of that.
Yeah, so I was pretty happy with what I was able to get for the iPad Pro. But granted, I did include the pencil, I did include the keyboard, and I got a nice little sum for it. Let's just say that. So, yeah.
No, and I'm stuck with the I'm getting store credit for my M1 iPad Pro, but I'm stuck with the old Magic Keyboard and the old Apple Pencil, which I don't really have any use for them anymore, to be totally honest. I'm not gonna the M2 iPad Air, I'm not gonna have one of those. My wife still has the 11-inch iPad Pro, so she can't take advantage of it. She can take the pencil, I guess, but $350 Magic Keyboard is gonna collect dust, or I'll try to sell it at some point.
All right, so I took pictures of my iPad and everything for the post, because I sold it online. And I always tried to show all the flaws, because there's nothing worse than you buy something and you get it and the person didn't describe it like it really was.
Yeah, I agree.
Or they didn't, I hate when that happens. So I always try to go over the top and just I'm like, why would anyone even want to buy this now after I described how terrible it is? Like this, but the pictures I took, they were like horrible. I'm like, man, no one's going to buy this. Like I had like chunks of the iPad cover, the keyboard cover, like just taken out of it.
Really?
It was all stained, like, because
you had the white one too, right?
And I did it again. Like, why did I do that? Like,
I mean, the white one is fresh. It's a nice color for sure.
It's fresh for like the first day, and then you take it to Starbucks, you sit it on a nasty table or something, and then it's completely ruined. Like mine was bad looking, and yet it's still sold. It's still sold. Like, so.
It goes to show you, I'm trying to think of other iPad Pro impressions that I've had so far.
256 storage is nice to start with.
The baseline, for sure.
Yeah. I know you didn't go base,
this for the
I
first
know
time
that.
ever.
Yeah.
It was amazing to export my video and it saying you have 960 gigs of storage left, and I'm like, that's nice.
So
No
you
more
didn't even
storage
have to have
gymnastics.
you didn't have to have your drive connected, did you? Or did you still?
I still kept it connected, but I exported it into my iPad. I kept it connected for some B-roll that I have on there, some files and things that I like to use.
Why don't you just dump everything over there, man?
Well, I don't want to just like fill it loaded because I have like probably like 400 gigs of stuff on that SSD. I don't want to just be like, all right, boom, take up half my storage just like that. You know, I want to keep it clean, when we have it. And then, but yeah, it exports quickly into that SSD, and then it's just nice to not have to like worry about that. The 128 gig life on the M1 iPad Pro was very annoying that I dealt with for like 3 years. But that's
I can imagine.
Self-inflicted wounds.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine that. It's nice to have 256 on the base model, but I hope to upgrade to the 2 terabyte or 1 terabyte at least. But 2 terabytes nice. Like that's when you feel like, oh, you can just put your feet up. You can put your feet up. You don't have to worry about nothing.
Yeah,
you can
I don't need
export all day long.
I'm good. I could just wait for the next one to come out whenever I need to upgrade it or something. So yeah. 2 terabytes crazy.
Yeah. Another thing that I noticed is the matte display. Like I know I kind of disparaged that in the previous episodes, but I actually tried it in store and I was pretty impressed by the nano texture display. It was nice. Now, granted, it's not as nice of a look as the glossy display that we know that, but it wasn't as bad as I was expecting either. And it's actually really nice, especially because I use my iPad a lot for reading, and sometimes you're in ambient light situations, and man, it is like, it's nice. I'm seriously considering going that route, actually.
I can see you doing that. And I'm curious how the screen would hold up, because how the screen would hold up with the Apple Pencil over time, and how you use it when you're touching it, because, you know, it's, from what I've heard with the Pro Display XDR at least, the matte display is relatively fragile, right? In terms of how you clean it and how you should take care of it and make sure you don't get any nicks on it. So I'm curious to know what it would be like with a mobile first, you know, put that in quotes, kind of device and a piece of hardware with that matte display. And then also I haven't actually seen it in person yet. I got to walk into an Apple store and check it out. I want to see if is it textured to the touch? Like, do you feel that there's a difference between the matte display and the glossy?
Yeah, I mean, but it's not like there's not a layer. Like it's just, even like the bezels are still glossy.
Okay.
But you can't tell, like it's not like there's like a bump. There's no bump or anything there when you're rubbing your finger from the glossy part to the matte part. It's like completely seamless.
But you feel that there's a difference in texture.
But you feel that there's a difference in texture. It's weird to describe it that way because you would think, but there's no like
raising or like
there's no line there that you go. I mean, it's smooth and then it's just smoother or kind of textured. It's interesting. But I was trying to pencil. I was kind of like kind of scraping on the screen just to see how it would do. It was perfectly fine.
Maybe it is worth the upgrade.
It's impressive.
Yeah, because I guess the argument against it is what the color accuracy might not be as precise, or maybe the blacks won't be like as black because of the reflecting and things like that. But I mean, if you're watching a movie in a dark enough environment, I'm sure it's not that crazy of a difference. Yeah,
and things won't be as sharp, like because stuff's diffused, so it's like having anti-aliasing on. Like if you play games and you know anti-aliasing like makes sharp lines smooth.
Yeah,
it's sort of like that. Where I don't know, it's not the best looking display compared to the glossy, but it's not bad either. It's a lot better than I thought it would be. And for a display like it, where you're traveling and in different environments more than any other device, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's like very anti-fingerprinty versus the glossy display. It's like, I feel like I got to clean that thing every second of the day.
That's another thing. Yeah. It's like it rejects fingerprints much better than the glossy display. So I don't know. I'm really, truly considering it to go that option. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. And then one more thing I did want to bring up for the iPad Pro, because you reminded me saying that you like to read on your iPad Pro. I would never, I know that my iPad Pro is a tablet first, but my M1 iPad Pro, I would never, ever use it as a tablet. Like I would never pull it off the Magic Keyboard and like sit back and like use it like this.
Oh, really?
It was like kind of tedious, I guess. I mean, again, I was dealing with a 12.9 form factor, I know that the 11-inch iPad Pro was way easier to wield in that way, but with the new lightweight iPad Pro, the M4 version, and the thinness of it, it's honestly not tedious at all. Like the other day, like yesterday, I was with it for half an hour on my couch, just kind of scrolling on Twitter, like answering some emails, doing the split view thing. I had my Apple Pencil on there as well, and it just felt more natural to use as opposed to with my M1 iPad Pro. It just felt a little heavy for most use cases. That's just my personal like little anecdote that I wanted to share. But if you are somebody that didn't like to use their 13 or their 12.9-inch iPad Pro in tablet mode because it was too heavy, the M4 iPad Pro did kind of solve that for me, at least.
Yeah, a good observation.
Yeah,
I could see that. I mean, the 13-inch is kind of a beast. The previous gen. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, that's pretty much the iPad Pro, unless you got another kind of little impression that you noticed, because again, it's only been 48 hours or a little bit more, and we want to put it through its paces.
Yeah, I have a lot of little impressions. Like I compared the like the speakers, for instance. Mm-hmm. They have more like little
they got
dots.
More grills.
I think it's 14 versus 10, I believe.
Yeah.
More grills, and there's no what else was there? Like one of the little microphones. There used to be 2 little microphones up here.
Okay.
Little dots.
Yeah.
And there's only one now. And there was something. Oh, there was a microphone on the non-Apple Pencil side on the old iPad Pro, and that's no longer there.
Interesting.
Either. Which is, I mean, those are just little details.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then one last thing that I did notice, which could be a good little segue into the Apple Pencil, is the iPad is so thin that when you have your Apple Pencil connected to the iPad just by itself in tablet mode, and you place the iPad down, the Apple Pencil like shifts up a little bit. If you've noticed that, like on a flat surface. I didn't notice that.
I tried that the other day, or I tried that actually yesterday, and I didn't get
it. Doesn't. And it's not enough to like disconnect it, but it does kind of like it moves it up a little bit because the Apple Pencil is thicker than the iPad Pro.
Huh? I didn't notice it. I'm not noticing that on mine.
No.
Maybe.
I mean, you could definitely see that the Apple Pencil is thicker than the iPad Pro. Which again is a wild statement to say.
I see it. It's like very subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's subtle.
Yeah. Huh. But I mean, like I said, nice little segue into the Apple Pencil, because I know that you think it's really cool. I think it's really cool. And it got a decent amount of new features. And it also makes you think of what else could be added to it by third-party developers moving forward.
One of the things that I like most about it is actually not even new for most people, or for some people, and that's hover. Like, because I had the iPad before the last one, and that didn't have hover support. Man, hover support is cool.
It is nice.
I like that.
I was using it in Affinity Photo, and how it actually helped me in my use case was I had the eraser on, and it would show me what size, like, how big my pixel eraser was, and it would show me like what I was about to erase and how much it was going to take up before I actually put my pencil down and started erasing. So I thought that was a cool little feature from Affinity Photo and the hover.
Yeah. Yeah, and even like you can scrub through, do Final Cut Pro, like you can scrub through the timeline and not even be touching the screen.
That's cool.
It's really cool.
That's nice.
So that is nice.
And then even little things, like, did you see the video from Snazzy Labs on Twitter with the
shadows?
The shadows? Have you seen that? Have you tried it?
Yeah.
It's trippy.
So it's actually a setting. You can turn that on or off.
It's a setting
within. Yeah, it's a setting. It's called shadow. If you go into Apple Pencil settings,
that's funny.
You will see. Yeah, it's. Let me see. Where is it? Here it is. Yeah. So under effects, you see hover, tool preview, shadow, and haptics. So you can turn all those on or off independently. Yeah,
that's
cool. Pretty cool.
But yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you like the refinement that Apple goes through. Like, they didn't need to do that.
That is a really cool feature, though. Like, so what it does, in case people haven't seen that video, is it like gives you a shadow of whatever the tool that you're using. So if you're using like a calligraphy pen, it looks like a calligraphy pen shadow. It's casting a shadow of that pen, or like a highlighter or anything, any other tool.
And even when you rotate it, the shadow rotates. So like the calligraphy pen's a great example because it's not like symmetrical or whatever. And you can see that as you rotate the pencil, because of the gyroscope in the new Apple Pencil Pro, it rotates with that. So I think that's a great like what's it called, proof of concept, I guess, that you would say, or like showing off what the gyroscope and the hover feature and all that does. It just does it so accurately.
I didn't notice the rotation. That's cool.
It is cool, right? Again, just like a fun feature that has no real functionality, but Apple just really likes to kind of flex their muscles on what exactly this thing is capable of. But then they also added the new squeeze gesture and also haptics, so those go 2 and 2 together. Because when you squeeze and you get the haptic feedback, it's so satisfying. The haptics are so good in the Apple Pencil.
Yeah, and the haptics are like, it's all throughout the pencil. So like when you squeeze here, you feel the haptics up here. And it's not just like you have to squeeze down here. Like you can squeeze all the way up here.
Yeah.
And it's still working, right? Like almost halfway up the pencil, you can squeeze. So that is really nice.
And for those wondering, because I don't know if you use a little pencil grip or whatever, squeeze still works with the pencil grip.
Fancy.
Which is cool.
Fancy.
Yeah.
And
then they also added Find My. You do have to manually add it to your Find My, so you have to just go into your Find My on your iPad, and then you'll see it right there. You just add your Apple Pencil, but it does have Find My support. I haven't fully tested it, so I don't know to what extent. If it's like you said earlier, I remember last week you said, like if it's like the Apple TV remote type of Find My, or if it's like the AirTag type of Find My, where it'll really get you all the way there.
I'm really satisfied with this Apple Pencil. Like to me, like I said, the hover support is the best feature. It's not a new feature, but for me, it's new, and I think it's such a good feature.
Yeah, and even apps that don't fully support it, it's cool. It's like you just like hover over like an option or a menu button, and it'll like kind of like highlight it a little bit. So because it is a native feature. So if your app has like certain things that if your app isn't if you don't make an actual feature for the hover, it still has like a native feature of like menu settings and things like that.
And another thing is that you can use the squeeze gesture to launch shortcuts, which opens up a whole other realm of, I mean, basically, because shortcuts can do pretty much anything.
It's the action button for your Apple Pencil.
Yeah, basically. That's what it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can do, like you said, anything from being a trigger for a camera to opening up different applications. Maybe you have like one app that you use most often with your Apple Pencil and you just like squeeze. Can you like double squeeze? Are there like multiple shortcut activation modes or no? It's just a single squeeze, right?
Just a single squeeze. So like, for instance, I'm assigning it to open up Final Cut Pro. I just decided that with the shortcut. And the cool thing about it though, is that you don't have to be close. Like you can be back here and
interesting.
Like you can be far away from your iPad. Like let me sit it all the way over here. Hold on.
Yeah. This is live, ladies and gentlemen.
I have it all the way over there, and launches it.
That's
so
crazy.
I can be super far away and do something on my iPad. Launch that gesture just like that.
That is so. It is wild that it does open. That they allowed this to have a shortcut now. Very, very cool. Yeah. So if I do this, and I just squeeze, directly to LumaFusion. That's so cool. And then if I press it again, does it go out? No. Okay.
So it would be nice to have different types of squeeze gestures, like triple squeeze.
But yeah, no, the Apple Pencil, a very, very cool little update. That one I was okay with spending the $129, I think.
Yeah. Easy upgrade. If you have the new Air or the iPad Pro, this is a must. Like you don't want that USB-C Apple Pencil.
Yeah. And you can't use your old Pencil 2 because it's not compatible. I've tried.
Yep.
Even though Apple told us it wasn't compatible.
And
then did you notice anything with like the charging or no? Some people were complaining online. I don't know if you saw. Some people were complaining that the Apple Pencil was falling off easier, that the magnets weren't as strong.
It had even better.
That's what
magnets.
I thought too. I mean, for me, it's been fine, and it charges obviously normally, and connects normally and easily. I do think the charging point, maybe there's 2 magnets in there as opposed to just one big one from before to go around the camera, maybe.
It seems that way, yeah.
Yeah.
It seems that way.
But speaking of that camera real quick, it has bothered me, and I don't know if you've noticed, and I'm sorry if you haven't noticed, but the camera's off center. And it bothers me.
What?
I probably just ruined it for you. But the selfie camera is off center. It's a little bit to the left.
Hold on.
Get the ruler out.
You already know.
Ooh, there he goes.
What? Are you kidding?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Man, what?
I don't know why Apple did that.
Hold on. So the iPad is about 11 inches across, right?
Okay.
So half of 11 would be
5.5.
5.5?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's way
Ooh.
off center, huh? I haven't measured it, but I just like see it, and every time it bothers me.
Wow. Wow.
Thanks, Apple.
That is weird. So it must be because of the charging. It must be something because, oh, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Because, well, yeah, because it's almost like right at the edge of the charging little pad at the top.
Yeah.
So it's probably
it
something
seems like
in
the
there
magnets are to the right of the camera, if you notice. Like like I don't think there's any magnets on the left of it.
There is.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, there's one on the left. Yeah.
I guess we got to get some of that magnet paper. See what that's like.
Wow, man.
I'm sorry that I ruined that for you. I shouldn't have said anything.
So did you notice that, or did someone else bring that to your attention?
No, I noticed it. I was just
Wow.
like, this looks a little weird. I was like, is this off center? And then I thought, I was like,
yeah.
did I get a bad one? You know?
I didn't need to bring out what am I doing? Like, all you got to do is look at the app icons. Like, that's
Exactly.
you could clearly see
it doesn't line up with my middle
app,
icon.
Yeah. That's funny, man. Wow.
So, thanks for putting it in the right spot, but come on, Apple. At least put it in the center. You know, you guys are such design-oriented people. You know this is going to bother everybody.
That is weird, man. That's weird. So,
Okay.
let's talk about keyboard.
Let's talk about it. What do you think?
What are your first impressions of it?
First impressions, I really like it. I like the switch to the aluminum. It gives me big time bridge keyboard vibes from back in the day, which I liked. I always was a fan of bridge. It was a shame they couldn't get the trackpad experience correct. That was pretty much their downfall. But again, it's very MacBook like. I like that. I've always liked the chiclet style keys. The function row is nice. I never complained that we didn't have it, but it is nice to have now. The trackpad being a little bit bigger. So the way that I explain how I use a trackpad on the iPad Pro, especially the previous one, because it was small. It was a very small trackpad, but I felt that it was more of an extension of the touchscreen. So I would pretty much use the trackpad as for gestures, right? Swiping up with 4 fingers, switching between apps, triple tapping to undo and things like that. I wasn't really using it as a point and click solution. That's when I would use the touchscreen and my finger. So that my experience hasn't changed quite yet, but I do like the larger trackpad, and I like how everything's just quieter.
The thing is, this is not a mechanical trackpad like the other one.
Mm-hmm.
So the other one was actually it actually clicked. This doesn't click. This is like the actual trackpad on your MacBook where it's capacitive. So there's no actual clicking going on.
I don't know if you noticed, but if you put them side by side, the iPad is sitting a tiny bit farther back. But you do get a little bit more of a viewing angle when you push it all the way back. I don't know if Apple maybe they pushed it back because of the function row, and they thought that's how they would justify it before. I don't know. But it does sit a little bit farther back than the old Magic Keyboard.
Yeah. One of the things I liked is the fact that you don't have that little piece of material here anymore. They just expose the hinge, which I thought, why didn't they do that before? Because if you ever look in... You know how it has a little gap on your Magic Keyboard? There's so much grime in there. It's disgusting.
Oh, I haven't looked in there, and I don't want to look in there.
Just do not look in there. It's so nasty.
Man, now I'm curious. Pulling this thing out.
Yeah. It's disgusting, man. For real.
I wonder if you kind of just took an X-Acto knife and cut it off. I wonder what would happen.
I was thinking that last night, yeah, but I didn't want to do it because the dude had bought it. So I'm like,
that's
do
true.
that.
That's fair. It's probably so gunky and nasty in there. You're so right. Maybe I'll play with it since I'm, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll put on my Jerry Riggs everything hat. Play with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the keyboard's nice for sure.
One last thing I noticed here is if you compare the way your old Magic Keyboard opens and the new one, so you can actually open that first little opening. You have to use 2 hands, right? But once you get it cracked open, you can use one hand to open the iPad all the way to that first hinge. Whereas on the other iPad keyboard, Magic Keyboard, you could not do that. It's needed both hands throughout the entire motion of opening it. So that's kind of
nice. That is nice. I like the material choices that they went with. I do like that kind of rubbery, soft touch material that they pretty much kept. The footprint is pretty much identical. I put them all on top of each other, and even though I feel like this feels a little bit bigger, the new one, I don't know, maybe it's because more of the actual keyboard is exposed. Since it is sitting farther back, it feels a little bit bigger. But yeah, it's the same exact footprint. Like if you put, I played around. Like if you put your M1 iPad Pro and you like physically hold it on because the magnets aren't aligned, so it's not going to stay on. Like it works. The pin connectors do connect, and it works. So it's literally the same thing. Like Apple purposely did that.
So I did both, right? So I took the new iPad Pro and connected it to the old Magic Keyboard, and like you said, it works fine. Yeah. Obviously, I mean, you can make it work. You can just sit it here; it'll be aligned kind of funky, but you wouldn't want to travel with that. Like if you just needed to type, you could get that done. The trackpad works, but if you take your You take the old iPad and connect it to the new Magic Keyboard, it'll still work, but only the keyboard, not the trackpad, because the trackpad's different with the new capacitive. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, cool. No. And that begs the question. So I posted something on Twitter, and I was curious. And we could go both ways, but if Apple allowed the M4 iPad Pro to work with the old Magic Keyboard, would you still upgrade to this new Magic Keyboard? Right? It's like, it's nice. It's nice, but like functionally, nothing really changed for me. So I would personally have saved my $350.
Yeah, I would have too.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I would not have upgraded if it did work. But that being said, since I'm forced to upgrade, at least it is somewhat nicer.
It is not, yeah. It's kind of like that fine line of like, it's definitely nicer. You see the differences, but if I had the opportunity to choose, I probably wouldn't do it. You know, like I would definitely upgrade the Apple Pencil before I upgrade the Magic Keyboard. Yeah. I posted that question. I thought it was interesting. And then vice versa too. Like some people wish that they could just buy the new Magic Keyboard because they bought a fully loaded M2 iPad Pro last year or something like that. And unfortunately, you can't do that. So the cross compatibility is definitely an issue.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird because I'm still like diving into this and still like trying to figure out all the things. So take this initial synopsis with the half a grain of salt.
Yeah, just initial, you know. Our minds will change as this thing goes, you know. But I am overall happy. Just things are just quicker, faster, tighter. It feels nice. It looks nice. Overall, it's a nice package, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
A nice upgrade after 2 years of waiting, which was cool.
Yeah.
And then one last thing that I noticed online, which was a great comment. One of the biggest complaints were like, oh, the hardware is amazing, but it's still an iPad, right? It's still iPadOS. But then somebody actually commented and it was like, but isn't that the same thing? Isn't that the case with like MacBook Pros, right? Like when they go from M1 Pro to M2 Pro to M3 Pro, it's like at the end of the day, it's still macOS. They're just increasing the hardware. So like that argument, I feel like could finally be thrown out the window. I don't know. That's just me.
Well, I never wanted the iPad to be macOS. Like I said in the last episode, it's all about the friction. Like if they just design it in a way to, and I guess you could make the argument that the friction is a part of the experience, but I feel like there's things there that could be done and they're logical. It's not like compromising the iPad OS experience, because I think it's a good experience. I think iPad OS, for those that, especially those that grew up with it or those that are just, you know, this is what they're familiar with.
Yeah.
It's a great OS. I mean, no one's saying it's not a good OS, but what I'm saying is that the friction there's still a lot of things that need to happen to make using it more intuitive.
No, I agree. I agree with you because it's I've always said that there's a learning curve to iPadOS. It goes back to the familiarity. If you grew up with it, if you use it on a day-to-day, then yeah, for sure, iPadOS is going to be good for you and your use case. There are some use cases that iPadOS is just not going to work for people, right? Like, the best example is like being a master Excel user. Like Excel is just not the same version of Excel that it is on Windows, right? Or even macOS. But if you have the apps that work for you and you're willing to learn kind of a new way to do the same thing in a different form factor, then iPadOS is going to be good enough for a good amount of the population if you're looking to replace your computer. Not everybody's looking to replace their computer. They're using it as a supplement to their computer. They're just different devices now at this point. And macOS on the iPad Pro won't ever happen, I don't think, like you said.
Yeah, and it's like, for instance, let's just take Final Cut Pro for example.
Mm-hmm.
The groundwork that's been laid in this app, I actually prefer it in a lot of ways to the way it works versus LumaFusion.
Okay.
But LumaFusion is by far, I mean, it's
More
not even
feature-rich.
close right now. Way more feature rich. There's things you can do with it that you can't even begin to do with the Final Cut Pro. It just feels like there's things holding it back, and it's not even so much because of iPadOS. It's just like, just do it. Like, implement the stuff. Why are we waiting around and taking forever to implement the things? Like, there's things that are obvious within Final Cut that we don't have that would make it 10 times better to use.
I agree. Like, I would love to like pick people's brain, like the developer's brain, or understand like why those choices were made to, again, essentially, I don't want to say it's like a watered down version of Final Cut Pro, because it does have powerful features in its own right. But again, like you said, it's not fully there, and that's intentional. But I'm wondering why they're doing it, because they could easily, the iPad is powerful enough, especially on the Pro side, it's powerful enough to run a full-fledged Final Cut Pro, in my opinion.
The thing is like, it is a touch first system, so you have to keep all those things in mind. But like, even some of the design elements of Final Cut and Logic are really, really well done. Like, for instance, being able to resize windows within Final Cut is probably the best I've seen that implemented on any app within iPadOS. Logic Pro is probably one of the most amazing apps I've ever seen, regardless of platform, on the iPad. It's just insanely good. Like, if you haven't tried Logic Pro, highly, highly recommend you try it out. It is. I actually prefer it on the iPad versus the Mac version.
That makes sense. I could see it being like a better experience with the touch first interface.
It's a better experience
on the iPad for that like type of application. So I mean, like we said, the power is there. It's just a matter of how Apple continues to position the iPad, and Apple keeps kind of almost getting us there with every iteration of iPadOS, but then we're like, there's still something holding it back, and sometimes it's hard to put a finger on it. Like, for instance, a good example is the Files app. The Files app in iPadOS is a little wonky. It's very familiar to the Finder app in Mac, but it's still just, there's something missing in the Files app, which makes it either like redundant or annoying to use or less efficient than using the Finder app on Mac OS, right? So it's like little differences like that, where it's like you can't really put your finger on exactly what we would want out of it, but it's still a little tedious to get around and use those applications because it is on iPadOS, and because Apple made those choices to add that level of friction. And like you said, maybe it is part of the experience, but just get rid of that friction, Apple. Come on, help us out.
There's a lot of little things, little adjustments that would go a long way to making it just a better. And that's something maybe we can do a video or a post on eventually, and just kind of walk through some of those things. Vitici did a really good post over at Mac Stories, if you haven't seen that, about iPadOS.
Oh, interesting.
For some reason, he didn't get a review unit, which is baffling to me. Like,
I love that.
This dude has been like the absolute
king,
one man like army of promoting the iPad, and he doesn't get a review unit. Like, what?
Come on, Apple.
I can see me not getting one, but Neil?
Or we're good. Well, we'll buy it.
Like,
but give this man his flowers.
So that made me feel like, man, if they ain't giving him one, I'm never.
I'm definitely low on that totem pole. Then, I'm low on that list. You want to mention the iPad Air real quick, just for a split second? Did you get one or no?
No.
No. Okay. I did pick one up. I have it. I opened it. I haven't played much with it since then, because it's essentially an iPad Pro without 120 hertz ProMotion. That's because it supports hover. It's got the M2 chip. And again, I guess the only other thing is Face ID versus Touch ID. Otherwise, it's the same exact form factor. It's the same weight. It's the same screen size. It's the same thickness. It works with the old Magic Keyboard. It works with the Apple Pencil Pro, with the USB-C Apple Pencil. It works with any iPad Pro accessories. Like, I had this iPad Pro magnetic stand, and the magnets line up the same way that an iPad Pro would. So it's not like the magnets changed up like the M4 iPad Pro did. So I would go out and say that most accessories that you were using with your M1 or M2 iPad Pro will work with your new iPad Air if you ended up doing that sort of switch or upgrade. I would just say it's just a cheaper iPad Pro, so more accessible. And the 128 gig starting and getting rid of the 64 gig starting is nice. Finally.
Yep.
Finally. I got a lot more deep diving to do. Right now I'm playing with the keyboard comparison. I want to do like Apple Pencil stuff. We'll do reviews. I know Jeff's working on some crazy stuff. And then we heard the news of like the eye tracking coming to iOS 18 and iPadOS 18, which I think is cool. Taking a page out of the Vision Pro use cases and Vision Pro kind of software. So I think the future is bright for the iPad Pro.
I'm definitely going to be using it more for sure. Like I use my M1 iPad Pro all the time, but it was only for like reading.
Okay. So just like an expensive Kindle?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Reading and note taking, that's pretty much it. But yeah, so now I'm going to actually put this thing to use.
Yeah. Nah, I love to see it because you were using LumaFusion. Didn't you say you edited one of the most recent videos on LumaFusion? Or no?
Yeah. That iOS 17.5 video, that was 90% done in LumaFusion. So
you liked it or no?
I liked a lot of things about it. Yeah. There's things that I didn't like about it, but LumaFusion is actually what's funny is I was in the Apple store and this guy, he had to be in like 80 years old.
Oh, wow.
He was talking to one of the guys in there and he was like, how well does this run LumaFusion?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah. Like he
It's
just
I want to be this guy when I'm 80.
Yeah, he's like, how well does the new iPads run LumaFusion? Like that's the sentence that came out of this guy's mouth. He's like, I'm like, cool, man. LumaFusion has definitely arrived.
Yeah.
It's been done arrived, but man, it's mainstream.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
And I'm ready for that update that you gave us a sneak peek of a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys listening, watching. Please subscribe. Subscribe to the podcast. And we'll be back next week with a lot more goodness to talk about. And hopefully I've made several videos before then. Well, I know I will.
I'm going to hold them to it too.